After 60. Authority. Life goes on after 60.
If you're a woman over 65 and you've been feeling unusually tired, struggling with heartburn that won't go away, or waking up drenched in cold sweats for no reason, you might be ignoring the warning signs of a silent heart attack right now. Here's what Australian cardiologists aren't telling you. Heart attacks in women don't look like the movies. There's no dramatic chest clutching, no sudden collapse. Instead, your body whispers warnings for weeks or even months before the real damage hits. And because these 5 signs feel so ordinary, 60% of Australian women over 65 dismiss them as just getting old. Today, I'm exposing every single warning your heart is trying to send you and how to act before it's too late.
Every single day in Australia, a woman over 65 dies from a heart attack that could have been prevented. Not because the medical technology wasn't there, not because she couldn't afford treatment, but because she didn't recognize the warnings her body was screaming at her for weeks, sometimes months, before her heart finally gave out. I'm Dr. Liam O'Connor, and I've spent 32 years as a cardiologist working across Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane. I've held the hands of thousands of Australian women in emergency rooms, and I've heard the same heartbreaking words over and over again. I didn't think it was serious. I thought I was just tired. I didn't want to bother anyone. But here's the truth that's been hidden from you for far too long. Heart disease is the #1 killer of Australian women over 65. It takes 4 times as many lives as breast cancer. Yet most women still believe heart attacks are man's problem. They are not. And worse, the warning signs in women are completely different from men, so different that even some doctors miss them. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the 5 silent heart attack warnings that Australian women over 65 ignore every single day. These aren't the dramatic symptoms you see in movies. These are subtle, quiet, easy-to-miss signs that your heart is struggling. And if you learn to recognize them today, you could save your own life tomorrow. Before we dive in, I need you to do something for me. Comment below with your age and tell me, have you experienced any unusual fatigue, unexplained sweating, or heartburn that just won't quit? My team reads every single comment personally. Your story could save another woman's life. Now, let's start with warning sign number 5. It's so common that doctors often dismiss it, but it's one of the earliest red flags your heart is sending. Warning sign number 5, unexplained, crushing fatigue that won't lift. Picture this. You wake up after a full 8 hours of sleep, but you feel like you've run a marathon. Simple tasks, making breakfast, folding laundry, walking to the letterbox, leave you completely drained. You tell yourself you're just getting older. You tell yourself you need more rest. But no amount of rest helps. The exhaustion follows you everywhere, day after day, week after week. This isn't normal tiredness. This is your heart crying out for help. When your heart muscle isn't getting enough oxygen, a condition called ischemia, your body has to work twice as hard to pump blood to your organs. Every beat becomes a struggle, and that struggle shows up as overwhelming, unexplained fatigue. It's not in your head. It's your heart running out of strength. A groundbreaking study published by the Heart Research Institute in Australia found that 70% of women who suffered a heart attack reported experiencing unusual fatigue in the weeks or even months before the event. But here's the shocking part. Only 30% of those women mentioned it to their doctor. Why? Because they thought it was normal. They thought it was just age. Let me tell you about Margaret. She was 73, living in Brisbane, and loved gardening. For months, she felt exhausted. She couldn't finish weeding her rose bed without sitting down. She stopped going to her weekly aqua aerobics class because she just didn't have the energy. Her daughter kept asking if she was okay, but Margaret waved her off. "I'm just getting old," she said. Then one morning, Margaret collapsed in her kitchen. By the time the ambulance arrived, she'd suffered a major heart attack. The paramedics told her later that if she'd come in weeks earlier, when the fatigue first started, they could have prevented the damage. But now, part of her heart muscle was permanently scarred. Margaret's story isn't unique. I see it almost every week. Women who push through exhaustion because they don't want to seem weak. Women who convince themselves it's nothing. Women who wait until it's too late. So how do you know if your fatigue is a heart warning? Ask yourself these questions. Did the fatigue come on suddenly, or has it been getting worse over weeks? Does it feel different from your normal tiredness? Are simple activities now leaving you breathless or wiped out? Does rest not help at all? If you answered yes to even one of these, you need to see your GP this week. Not next month. This week. Ask for a full cardiac workup, ECG, blood tests for troponin and cholesterol, and possibly a stress test. Do you understand how serious this is? Your fatigue isn't laziness. It's your heart begging for oxygen. But fatigue is just the beginning. Let's move to warning sign number 4. This one tricks thousands of Australian women every year because it feels exactly like something harmless. Warning sign number 4. Persistent heartburn or indigestion that won't respond to antacids you've just finished dinner. Maybe it was a bit rich, maybe you ate too quickly, and now you feel that familiar burning sensation in your chest. Heartburn, right? You pop a couple of antacids, wait for relief, but it doesn't come. The burning lingers. It spreads. Sometimes it moves up into your throat or down into your stomach. You try drinking water, lying down, sitting up, nothing helps. Here's what most women don't realize. That heartburn might not be your stomach at all. It might be your heart. When the arteries that supply blood to your heart become blocked or narrowed, a condition called angina, you feel pain. But in women, that pain doesn't always show up as classic chest pain. Instead, it disguises itself as indigestion, heartburn, nausea, or stomach upset. It's your heart's way of whispering, something's wrong. But because it feels so much like a digestive problem, you ignore it. Research from the Australian cardiovascular health group Heart Foundation found that women are 30% more likely than men to describe heart attack pain as burning or indigestion-like rather than crushing chest pain. And tragically, that difference in symptoms leads to delayed treatment and worse outcomes. Let me tell you about Linda. She was 68, lived on the Gold Coast, and loved hosting Sunday roast for her family. For 3 months, she experienced what she thought was chronic heartburn. Every evening after dinner, the burning would start. She tried every over-the-counter antacid. She cut out spicy foods, tomatoes, caffeine. Nothing worked. One Sunday, in the middle of carving the lamb, Linda felt the burning intensify. This time it spread to her jaw and down her left arm. Her son insisted they go to the hospital. The doctors ran an ECG. Linda was having a heart attack right there in the emergency department. If she'd waited another hour, the damage would have been catastrophic. The cardiologist told Linda something that haunts me to this day. If you'd come in 2 months ago, when this started, we could have cleared your blocked artery with a simple stent. Now you've lost part of your heart muscle forever. So how do you tell the difference between real heartburn and a heart warning? Here are the red flags. The heartburn doesn't improve with antacids or food. It gets worse with physical activity or stress. It's accompanied by sweating, nausea, or shortness of breath. It radiates to your jaw, neck, shoulders, or arms. It feels different from your usual indigestion. If any of these apply to you, do not wait. Call 000 or get to an emergency department immediately. Do not drive yourself. Call an ambulance. Heart attacks don't wait for convenient timing, and neither should you. But there's another warning sign that women dismiss even more often than heartburn, and it's the one that sends chills down my spine every time I hear it. That's warning sign number 3. Warning sign number 3. Sudden, unexplained shortness of breath during normal activities. You are walking from your bedroom to the kitchen. Maybe you're hanging washing on the line. Perhaps you're climbing a single flight of stairs. Activities you've done 1,000 times without thinking. But suddenly, you're gasping for air. Your lungs feel tight. You have to stop, catch your breath, wait for the feeling to pass. You tell yourself you're out of shape. You tell yourself you need to exercise more. But here's the truth. Sudden shortness of breath during normal, everyday activities is one of the most dangerous heart attack warnings, and women ignore it more than any other sign. When your heart can't pump blood efficiently, your lungs don't get the oxygen they need. Your body panics. You start breathing faster, trying to compensate. But no matter how hard you breathe, you can't seem to get enough air. That's because the problem isn't your lungs. It's your heart. A landmark study from the University of Sydney tracked over 4,000 Australian women aged 65 and older for 5 years. The researchers found that women who reported new or worsening shortness of breath during light activities had a 45% higher risk of heart attack within the next 12 months compared to women without this symptom. Yet, shockingly, fewer than 1 in 3 sought medical attention. Let me tell you about Patricia. She was 71, lived in Perth, and loved her morning walks along the beach. For weeks, she noticed she couldn't walk as far as she used to. She'd get breathless halfway through her usual route. She blamed the heat. She blamed her age. She blamed everything except her heart. Then one morning, Patricia woke up gasping for air. She couldn't lie flat. She had to prop herself up with pillows just to breathe. Her husband called 000. The paramedics arrived within minutes and rushed her to the hospital. Patricia was in acute heart failure. Her heart had been struggling for weeks, and her body had finally reached its breaking point. The cardiologist told Patricia something that broke her heart. If you'd come in when the breathlessness first started, we could have treated you with medication and lifestyle changes. Now you'll need lifelong heart failure management. Do you see the pattern here? Every single one of these women ignored the warnings. Not because they were careless, but because they didn't know. They didn't realize their bodies were screaming for help. So how do you know if your shortness of breath is a heart warning? Pay attention to these signs. It comes on suddenly, without an obvious cause like a cold or allergies. It happens during activities that never used to make you breathless. It's worse when you lie flat and improves. When you sit up, it's accompanied by swelling in your ankles or legs. You feel a sense of panic or tightness in your chest along with the breathlessness. If you're experiencing any of these, you need to see a doctor immediately. Not tomorrow, today. Call your GP, go to a walk-in clinic, or if it's severe, call 000. Your breathlessness isn't just aging. It's a red alert from your heart. Now we are moving into the top 2 warning signs. These are the ones that shock most women because they seem so unrelated to the heart. But they are some of the most reliable predictors of a coming heart attack. Let's talk about warning sign number 2. Warning sign number 2, cold sweats. Especially at night or without exertion, you wake up in the middle of the night and your sheets are soaked. You're drenched in sweat, clammy, cold. You haven't been exercising. You're not sick with a fever. You haven't eaten anything spicy. You assume it's menopause. You assume it's hot flushes. You assume it's anything except what it really is. Your heart struggling to keep up. Cold sweats, especially those that happen at rest, at night, or without any obvious trigger, are one of the most overlooked heart attack warnings in women. And they are incredibly dangerous because they often happen in the hours or days immediately before a heart attack. Here's what's happening inside your body. When your heart isn't getting enough oxygen, your nervous system goes into panic mode. It releases stress hormones, adrenaline, and cortisol to try to compensate. Those hormones trigger your sweat glands, especially the ones on your palms, forehead, and upper body. But because your heart is struggling, the sweat feels cold and clammy, not warm like normal perspiration. The Heart Foundation of Australia published findings in 2024 showing that cold sweats were reported by 48% of women who experienced a heart attack, often occurring up to 2 weeks before the event. Yet, only 19% of those women mentioned it to a doctor. Why? Because they attributed it to hormones, stress, or just one of those things. Let me tell you about Dorothy. She was 69, lived in Adelaide, and worked part-time at a local library. For 2 weeks, she woke up every night drenched in sweat. Her nightgown would be soaking wet. She'd have to change her sheets. During the day, she'd get sudden cold sweats while sitting at a desk. She mentioned it to a friend, who laughed and said, "Welcome to getting older." Then one afternoon, while reshelving books, Dorothy felt a crushing pressure in her chest. The cold sweat returned, but this time it was accompanied by nausea and dizziness. A colleague called an ambulance. Dorothy was having a heart attack. The doctors later told her that the cold sweats she'd been experiencing for 2 weeks were her body's warning system, a system she'd ignored because she didn't know what it meant. So how do you know if your sweats are heart-related? Look for these red flags. The sweats happen at rest. Not during exercise or heat. They feel cold and clammy, not warm, and flush. They are accompanied by other symptoms like nausea, dizziness, or chest discomfort. They happen suddenly and without warning. They're different from your usual hot flushes or night sweats. If this sounds like you, do not wait. See your GP immediately and specifically mention the cold sweats along with any other symptoms. Ask for an ECG and blood tests. Your sweats aren't hormones. They're your heart sending an SOS. And now, we've reached warning sign number 1. This is the most dangerous of all because it's the most confusing. It's the symptom that convinces women they're having a panic attack, anxiety, or stress, when in reality, their heart is minutes away from failing. Let's talk about it. Warning sign number 1. Sudden, intense anxiety or feeling of impending doom. Imagine this. You're sitting on your couch, watching television. Nothing stressful is happening. You're calm. And then, out of nowhere, you feel it. A wave of intense, overwhelming anxiety. Your heart races. You feel like something terrible is about to happen, but you don't know what. You can't explain it. You can't shake it. It feels like you're about to die. Most women dismiss this as a panic attack. But here's the terrifying truth. This feeling of impending doom is one of the most reliable predictors of a heart attack in women, and it often happens in the minutes or hours right before the heart attack strikes. When your heart is in severe distress, your brain knows it. Your nervous system detects that something is catastrophically wrong, even if you can't consciously identify what it is. That primal, ancient part of your brain screams, danger, and you feel it as an overwhelming sense of dread, fear, or panic. Cardiologists call this the sense of impending doom, and it's a medical red flag that should never, ever be ignored. A study conducted across Australian emergency departments found that 42% of women who presented with a heart attack reported experiencing sudden, unexplained anxiety or feeling that something was terribly wrong in the hours before the attack. Tragically, many of these women delayed seeking help because they assumed it was just stress or anxiety. Let me tell you about it. She was 74, lived in Melbourne, and had never had a panic attack in her life. One Saturday morning, while having breakfast with her husband, she suddenly felt an overwhelming sense of dread. Her heart was pounding. She felt nauseous. She was convinced something awful was about to happen, but she couldn't explain what. Her husband wanted to call an ambulance and refused. "I'm just being silly," she said. "It's probably just stress." She went to lie down, hoping the feeling would pass. It didn't. An hour later, and felt a crushing pain in her chest and jaw. By the time the ambulance arrived, she was unconscious. She'd suffered a massive heart attack. The paramedics later told N's husband that the panic attack she'd felt an hour earlier wasn't panic at all. It was her heart's final warning. If she'd called 000 the moment she felt that sense of doom, they could have intervened before the damage was done. So how do you know if your anxiety is heart-related? Here are the signs. The anxiety comes on suddenly. With no obvious trigger, you've never experienced panic attacks before, or this feels completely different. It's accompanied by physical symptoms like chest discomfort, sweating, nausea, or shortness of breath. You have an overwhelming sense that something is physically wrong. Not just emotionally, the feeling doesn't improve with relaxation techniques or deep breathing if you experience this. Call 000 immediately. Do not wait. Do not convince yourself it's just anxiety. Trust your body. It knows when your heart is in danger. Why are heart attack warnings so different in women? Now, you might be wondering, why are these symptoms so different from the classic heart attack signs everyone talks about? Why don't women get the dramatic chest pain that men get? The answer lies in how heart disease develops differently in women. In men, heart attacks usually happen when a large coronary artery gets blocked by big clot. That blockage causes sudden, severe chest pain, the kind you see in movies. But in women, especially women over 65, heart disease often develops differently. Instead of one big blockage, women are more likely to have smaller blockages in the tiny arteries that branch off the main coronary arteries. This is called microvascular disease. These tiny blockages don't cause dramatic chest pain. Instead, they cause subtle, vague symptoms like fatigue, breathlessness, and nausea. Women are also more likely to experience something called a silent heart attack, a heart attack that happens with minimal or no symptoms at all. Studies show that up to 45% of heart attacks in women over 65 are silent, meaning the woman doesn't even realize she's had a heart attack until weeks or months later when it's discovered on a routine ECG. This is why it's so critical to pay attention to the subtle warnings your body is giving you. Your heart might not scream. It might only whisper. But those whispers can save your life if you listen. What makes Australian women over 65 so vulnerable? Let's talk about why this age group is at such high risk. After menopause, women lose the protective effects of estrogen. Estrogen helps keep blood vessels flexible, reduces inflammation, and lowers cholesterol. When estrogen levels drop after menopause, your risk of heart disease skyrockets. In fact, research shows that women's heart attack risk increases by 300% in the decade after menopause. By the time you reach 65, your risk of heart disease is equal to, or even higher than, a man's. Add to that the fact that Australian women over 65 are more likely to have other risk factors: high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, obesity, and a sedentary lifestyle. Many are also caring for aging partners or grandchildren, which adds chronic stress, a major heart disease risk factor. And here's the most heartbreaking part. Women are less likely to receive appropriate treatment even when they do seek help. A 2018 study from the University of Sydney found that Australian women admitted to hospital with a heart attack were 50% less likely than men to receive timely diagnostic tests and treatment. They were also less likely to be referred to cardiac rehabilitation or prescribed preventive medications. This isn't just a health issue. It's a gender equity issue. Women's heart symptoms are dismissed, minimized, or misdiagnosed far too often. That's why it's so important for you to advocate for yourself. If a doctor tells you it's just stress or it's just age, push back. Demand an ECG. Demand blood tests. Demand answers. Your life is worth fighting for. What to do if you recognize these warnings? If you've recognized yourself in any of these 5 warning signs, here's exactly what you need to do. Step 1. Call your GP today. Book an appointment within the next 48 hours. Do not wait weeks. Tell them specifically, I'm experiencing, describe your symptoms, and I'm concerned about my heart. Step 2. Ask for these tests: ECG, electrocardiogram, to check your heart's electrical activity, blood test for troponin, a marker of heart damage, cholesterol, and blood sugar, blood pressure check, possibly a stress test or echocardiogram if your doctor suspects heart disease. Step 3. If symptoms are severe or sudden, call 000 if you experience sudden chest pain, crushing fatigue with breathlessness, cold sweats with nausea, or sense of impending doom. Do not wait. Call 000 immediately. Tell the operator you think you might be having a heart attack. Do not drive yourself to the hospital. Step 4. Track your symptoms. Write down when your symptoms happen, how long they last, and what you're doing when they occur. This information is gold for your doctor. Step 5. Know your risk factors. Do you have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, or a family history of heart disease? Are you overweight, inactive, or a smoker? These factors dramatically increase your risk. Talk to your doctor about how to manage them. How to protect your heart starting today. Now, let's talk about what you can do right now to protect your heart, naturally, safely, and effectively. 1. Move your body every single day. You don't need a gym membership. A 30-minute walk around your neighborhood, 5 days a week, can reduce your heart attack risk by 35%. If you can't do 30 minutes at once, break it into 3 10-minute walks. 2. Eat for your heart. Focus on whole foods, vegetables, fruits, whole grains, lean proteins like fish and chicken, nuts, seeds, and healthy fats like olive oil and avocado. Limit processed foods, sugary snacks, and excess salt. 3. Manage stress. Chronic stress floods your body with cortisol, which damages your arteries. Find what calms you: gardening, meditation, time with friends, gentle yoga, or even just sitting outside in the sun for 10 minutes a day. 4. Sleep well. Aim for 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep each night. Poor sleep increases inflammation and raises your heart attack risk. 5. Stay connected. Loneliness is a heart disease risk factor. Make time for friends, family, community groups, or volunteering. Social connection literally protects your heart. 6. Know your numbers. Get your blood pressure, cholesterol, and blood sugar checked regularly. Knowledge is power. Your turn. What will you do today? You've now learned the 5 silent heart attack warnings that Australian women over 65 ignore every day. Unexplained. Crushing fatigue, persistent heartburn that won't respond to antacids, sudden shortness of breath during normal activities, cold sweats, especially at night, sudden, intense anxiety or feeling of impending doom. You've heard the stories of Margaret, Linda, Patricia, Dorothy, and Anne, women who ignored the warnings and paid the price. But you don't have to be one of them. You have the knowledge now. You have the power to act. So here's what I want you to do. Comment below and tell me, how old are you? Have you experienced any of these 5 warnings? What action will you take this week to protect your heart? My team and I read every single comment personally. Your story matters, and sharing it could save another woman's life. If this video helped you, please like it, share it with every woman over 60 you know, and subscribe to this channel for more life-saving health information. Because your heart is worth protecting. Your life is worth fighting for, and it's never, ever too late to start. Remember, your heart doesn't roar. It whispers. But if you listen, those whispers can save your life.